everyone. So I'm Jason, ecosystem lead at Zama. Welcome to this first demo. We are very glad to have you here. We recently launched the testnet for the Zama protocol, and it lets a developer build a fully confidential on-chain application on Sepolia. So quick reminder, Zama's tech enables encrypted data computation directly on-chain using standard Solidity. So there is no new language, no custom tooling. And this protocol is designed to integrate with both public and permissioned blockchain. And if you are a dev and you're curious about building with us, you can check our doc at docs.zama.ai. So we are actively looking for great teams to support. So if you've got an exciting use case, please reach through the form on our website. Now for today, for this first demo, I'm thrilled to welcome Bilal, founder of Zaïffer. He's built a super cool use case using our tech, and he's here to walk us through it. So welcome, Bilal. Great to have you here. How is it going?
Thanks, Jason, for the introduction. If you want to know more about Zaïffer, you guys can go on zaïffer.org. And you can find our website. So we're pretty much in stealth mode until September. But as you can see, there is a fully fledged website. And in the end, you can even find some resources that we started writing, also some tutorials, also some use cases, different use cases, where to imagine yourself better on what kind of on how you could use the platform. For example, you can use them for remittances, you can use them to anonymize OTC trades, you can use them as a business for international trades, etc., etc. Obviously, the website is still work in progress. The platform is not live. We didn't choose to launch it as a testnet, but you can obviously find us on X. You just have to go on at Zaïffer protocol handle, and please feel free to follow us. Again, you're very early, guys, because we're in stealth mode until September, so there's no post, but very soon we'll start giving more and more news. Again, the website is zaïffer.org. So now let's jump into the demo. So this is a fake website, but I like the idea of acting or having privacy just like a VPN that you can on and off switch. And it's pretty much the same. The first thing, now let's deep dive into the demo. So the first thing, as any dApp, you have to connect with the wallet. And here already we are basically killing 90% of all the other privacy solutions, because most of the others are not interoperable with any wallet from the Wallet Connect SDK. Most of them create an L2, forces you to set up a new ZK wallet address. So not only you have to manage a new wallet interface, you have to manage a new wallet address where you have to deposit funds. It reminds me a little bit of early days of crypto, where you basically had only to go, your only choice was to go to an exchange, on-ramp from the exchange, then send token from the exchange before the on-off ramps came, and people can just buy tokens seamlessly from their wallet. It's kind of the same leap here. We're interoperable natively with any wallet from the Wallet Connect SDK. It means that if you want to connect with your Coinbase wallet, 1inch wallet, OKX wallet, even with your Fireblocks wallet using the Wallet Connect SDK, you can interact with this app. So there's nothing blocking you from interacting with this app. So I'm sharing the specific screen. You don't see my wallet confirmation with the pop-up on MetaMask, but I basically just signed the message in order to connect. The first thing that you see when you come into the interface of zaïffer.org is that it's very similar to Gnosis Safe. It's like a portfolio management section with your transaction history and a bunch of quick actions that you can use here. Obviously, I can hide them or not. But something very particular that you might be noticing is that here you can see pairs of tokens: USDC, CUSDC, WBTC, CWBTC. So the nomenclature for confidential tokens is to put a small c just before the normal tokens. So here I have USDC and I have CUSDC. So the way to go from one way to the other is to use the shield function. So when you use the shield function, you can say, okay, I want to change 1 USDC into 0.99 CUSDC. Just for your information, we can discuss fees later on, but again, this is a demo platform. So in order to be able to calculate properly the fees when you have like small decimal numbers, we put a 1% fee. It's not going to be the final fee. We can discuss that later, but it's just for the testing purposes. But the point is that you can go from 1 USDC to CUSDC or from CUSDC to USDC. Again, CUSDC is the confidential version to USDC. So what you can see here is the core main purpose of the platform. It allows anyone connecting with any wallet to make any token private. And by any tokens, I mean like any tokens. If I want to wrap my WBTC, I can also do it. So I just said a keyword here. I said wrap. So basically, how does it work? It works as a wrapper. So basically, you deposit in an escrow contract WBTC, and you get minted a synthetic token called confidential WBTC, CWBTC, that basically respects a standard that Zama and OpenZeppelin are creating called the confidential token standard. Jason, do you remember the number of the EIP? 78 something?
No, I don't have it in mind.
Anyway, if you guys tap down Confidential Token Association on internet, you're going to quickly find the source code on the GitHub of OpenZeppelin. This has been audited by OpenZeppelin, and that's basically what we are using to leverage this standard and make confidential tokens as mainstream as possible. So those confidential tokens, what are their specificities? There are 3 specificities in confidential tokens. The first one, which is the most, I mean, I was going to say a bad word, but the most surprising is that when I go on Etherscan to check my tokens transfer, what does Etherscan is showing when I'm manipulating confidential tokens? And you can see here that there is a weird number in the amount sections. Here it's not weird, here it's not weird. So 2 things here. First, those are transactions made with confidential tokens where the amounts are hidden. So one big thing, because I want to come back on something I said. Remember, I was talking about the mixers, like Tornado Cash. Like I was saying, the mixers, they cut the link between the sender and the receiver, and it doesn't have the amount. So don't think that what we're doing is a mixer, because it's totally different on every level. And the biggest one is that we do the opposite. We don't skill the relation between the sender and the receiver, and we hide the amount. The second interesting thing that you can see here is just like a VPN where you can switch it on and off. You can do non-confidential transaction with the same wallet as well as confidential transaction. You know, here I did a transaction in confidential USDC. Here it's normal USDC, and so on and so on. So that's the first property of the confidential tokens. It hides the amount of your transaction publicly, meaning on Etherscan of Sepolia, Etherscan, Sepolia, my wallet address, my transaction amount are hidden. So that's like a very surprising, because when I started manipulating crypto, I thought there's one thing that you can't not touch. It's what appears on the blockchain. And using fully homomorphic encryption, which allows computation on encrypted data, it allows basically to encrypt publicly a data on-chain with the ability to still manipulating the underlying tokens that you have in your wallet. That's really amazing, and that was my first wahoo moment when I saw that, and where I believed, okay, we're really breaking every misconceptions of what people think blockchain are. The second property of the confidential tokens, let's go back on the platform, is that obviously as the owner of these confidential tokens, you can see everything that you're doing. So let's reveal one of my transaction amounts. I have my pop-up that comes, signing it, and after a few seconds, it's going to reveal the amount here. One confidential stake TID. So if I go back on Etherscan, these transactions an hour ago that I just revealed of confidential staked keys is not like 115 quadrillion, 792 billions, etc. It's actually up one staked ETH. So I was saying that obviously as the owner, you can reveal your interactions, but of course you can also reveal your transaction amounts, your balances, sorry. So here I'm revealing my balance in confidential USDC. So one thing important is that those confidential USDC are different tokens than your USDC. So here, basically in my wallet, I have 8.46 USDC plus 7,445 CUSDC. It's not 7 CUSDC that are confidential among the 8. It's an addition of both because it's not the same contract. Again, you're depositing USDC in a contract and get minted a confidential token.
Bilal, we have a first interesting question. Is there any limit in the transaction amount?
No, there's no limit in the transaction amount. Actually, that's a good question. It's a little bit technical. When you use fully homomorphic encryption, actually you have to encrypt the numbers in 64 bytes, which is not the same as the 128 bytes that normal token use. Which means that the smallest decimal that you can have on a token is 601. So 10 to the power of -6 decimals. So this doesn't change much for most of the tokens. But if you take Bitcoin today, Bitcoin is so expensive that if you take 10 to the power of -6 decimal, it means that the smallest transaction that you can do with a confidential WBTC is actually 10 cents. So that's a very good question. There is some kind of limitation, but this limitation doesn't really apply for most of the tokens, except Bitcoin, which has like a huge price. Obviously, and 0.1 cents, it's already acceptable at the level of Bitcoin. Pretty confident that this can evolve in the future, but that's indeed kind of the limits today. So let's go back on the purpose of the platform. First, it allows anyone to make any token private. Two, the property of the token is that publicly the amounts are hidden. As the owner, you can reveal any of your transactions. And there is a third property really related to the compliance aspect. But I'm going to keep that aside to show you more features, and then we'll get back into the compliance aspect. So obviously, once you have those confidential tokens, the point is to use them. So first type of use case that we can do is that we can do, let's say, a transaction. So I have Jason beside me. Let's say I want to send WBTC, confidential WBTC to Jason. I'm going to send him 20 CWBTC.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. Don't. You're going to send them back to me. So that's one of the difference with the traditional tokens. Some of them require an approval before the transaction. Here, it's kind of similar than the approval of the USDT or the USDC. So first, I have to approve the transactions. So in this initialization, it's basically going to check that I have enough balance to send the token. So indeed, he sees that I have 36 more CWBTC, so I can send 20 CWBTC. Let's trigger the transfer. So here there is the encryption in progress. So we are requiring the Zama infrastructure, the Zama protocol, the Zama oracle, like I like to call it, in order to perform the encryption on my encrypted data, because remember, on Etherscan, my data was encrypted. I often like to see Zama as some kind of oracle. If you look at Chainlink, it's an oracle that a smart contract can require to get off-chain data. Here, it's kind of the same thing. It's an oracle that any smart contract can require, but instead of getting off-chain data, it performs fully homomorphic computations. So this fully homomorphic computation takes about 40 seconds. And this time, is not really fixed into I mean, it's not really fixed. What Zama is doing is working on their infrastructure to improve it, and we believe we can divide already by 3 by the end of the year this time. So instead of 4 seconds, it's going to take 40 seconds. It's going to take basically 10, 15 seconds. So still, it's a little bit of asynchronicity. But if you look at what ZK is proposing, for example, I mean, when you want to go from a bridge from an L2 to an L1, your tokens can be stuck there for like a week. So it's still like infinitely more performing than ZK to use FHE. So I just sent 20 CWBTC to Jason, and here we can see that I've sent, and if I reveal the amount here, it's going to show 20. Up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 5 seconds. 5 seconds to reveal, about 30 to 40 seconds to perform an encryption or a transfer, a confidential transfer. So obviously, we didn't stop here. Our purpose is to make those tokens as usable as possible. And remember, I was mentioning businesses or institutionals. I don't think a corporate wants to pay, or no, not even. I would say, I don't think the employees of a corporate wants to be paid in stable coins, because everybody would be able to see how much salary they get. I don't think a corporate wants to have their treasury in USDC when everybody can see how much treasury they have. And so for that, we have built in different features to allow, for example, group transfers, if you want to send a bunch of transfer for salaries, for example. But we've also thought of businesses who want to, invoice themselves. So let's do let's do a trial. Let's say, so all of those information are fake. Don't try to kidnap us. You won't find us in those addresses. So obviously, when you want to create an invoice, you start by putting your company info. Boom, I put my company info. Then let's say I want to invoice Zama. Boom, I select Zama that I've already registered in my address book. And next. So obviously, in the address book, I have associated the address of Zama. And let's say I want to invoice them for the demo. I choose my tokens that I want to invoice them. I want them to pay by tomorrow. And let's say I want them to pay up 18. Well, let's put 20 and put 0 VAT. Let's say we're in Dubai, but even though we're not. So boom. -3, tax cannot be lower than 0. No, I don't want 0, I want 3. Okay, maybe there is an issue here. Okay. Okay, let's wait. Let's change something. How do I go back? Well, I cannot go back. Okay, well, never mind. Confirm. And then what it does is that it creates a payment link. So I can copy paste this payment link. I'm going to send it to Jason. Oh, you know what? I'm going to show you what it looks like also from my screen. Jason. Actually, I should have sent you more tokens. You're not going to be able to pay that. You don't have enough CWBTC. Anyway, it's not a problem. So once you generate this invoice, you can manage your invoice. So I can see that obviously depending the paid, the cancel, when is the due date, and basically I can associate different transactions. If the transaction actually can be reconciled automatically if it's exactly the same amount. If it's not, let's say you pay in 2-3 times, then you can select a bunch of transactions and add them to associate them to the platform. Someone can download directly the invoice as well. Again, it's a demo, so the invoice is very simple, but you get the purpose. Let's go back on the platform. Okay, so let's say now you are an influencer or you are a freelance and you're working for Zaïffer or Zama, and you want to bill someone. So let's say I've been hacking for Zama for like 20 CUSDC. I want them to pay. So again, it creates a payment link. This payment link, I'm going to open a new tab up, and I can open this payment link, and I arrived in a checkout page. And when when you're working with freelancer or influencer, and they send you and they want you to pay, and then you have to go back in the conversation to get their wallet address, and then you have to fill in the number of tokens and etc. We want to streamline this process. And so what people can do is that they can directly clear this payment link, and then let's say they don't have confidential tokens. Oh, that's cool. You can actually shield your confidential tokens straight from the interface. And then you want to pay, you can pay. So here I actually created a payment link bigger than my balance, so I cannot pay, but you've seen me do the transfer. It's exactly similar. So again, we're building features that, oh, sorry, I lost the screen sharing. Did I lose the screen sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What's happening here? Oh, sorry, guys. Zaïffer platform, going back. All right. So we've been thinking of use cases for businesses, use cases for independent people. But what about DeFi? Because what people like to do in crypto is also generate yield from their cryptocurrency. What they want to do is to swap tokens from one token to the other. And so here you can find two features, swaps and yield, that we are currently working on that will allow you to swap confidential tokens together. And the way we have implemented that is that we're not creating a DEX of our own. We're actually allowing you to tap into the liquidity of existing apps, such as Uniswap for swaps, to do your confidential swaps. And how does it work? I mean, it's a little bit technical, but basically there is like a proxy contract that aggregates multiple orders and then triggers an unwrapping process, a swap process, a rewrapping process, and then sends you back the tokens. So you can confidentially swap pretty much what you want with the full liquidity of existing DeFi. But the beauty doesn't end. What about yield? How can you use confidential tokens on existing yield generation apps? And so similarly to what I just described, we are creating confidential vaults that copies existing vaults. So let's say you want to invest in the MEV Capital ETH vault from Stakehouse Financial, then you're going to be able to deposit your confidential ETH into this confidential vault that will then unwrap, invest in these vaults, and then rewrap your principal or wrap your yield. And so obviously we can see that you're investing in these vaults, but nobody can see how much you have invested in these vaults, and nobody can see how much rewards you're generating from these vaults. And it's the same with the swap. We can obviously see that you want to swap something, but nobody knows exactly what you are swapping, how much you're swapping, and that's like a first layer. To give you more perspective on new complexities that emerge, I'll give you an example. So on an AMM, the price is the ratio of the numbers of tokens in both pools, right? So if one of the pool is confidential, you cannot really calculate the price. So there's only two ways of swapping or generating yield, either by having this proxy contract that shields what you want to do without revealing how much you're interacting with the contracts, or we have to create a new type of AMM or a new type of lending protocol. It's the same in the lending protocol. If your collateral is confidential, how do you calculate the liquidation threshold? So confidentiality is very exciting because not only it's killing all the preconception of blockchain, such as full transparency, but also it's going to redistribute the cards in DeFi. And so if you're a team and you like DeFi and you want to build those new types of AMM or those new types of lending protocol, please reach out to Zama and let's collaborate. And collaborate by integrating you in those sections so that people can choose whether they want to have a fully confidential swap, both how much and what you're doing, or a half confidential swap where we know that you want to swap, but we don't know how much you're actually swapping. But in one case, you're tapping into the existing liquidity of apps like Aave, like Uniswap, like Morpho. On the other, you have to rebuild your liquidity, but you're really enjoying full confidentiality, avoiding front running, avoiding disclosing your liquidation threshold, etc. I mean, I'm sure you've all seen on Twitter all those people that are following, what's his name? James Wynn, big trader, and they're like, oh my God, this guy is going to get liquidated. But without proper asymmetry of information, you can have external people, malicious people, actually through different swaps, triggering the liquidation of someone else. So when you're an institution and you're lending and borrowing money, you don't want to have this risk, and that's why the asymmetry of information is important. So that's pretty much the whole type, like a walkthrough of the platform. Here you have an address book. Here you have like a loyalty system where you're going to be able to track everything you're doing, people that you're referring. You're going to have an analytics section. But let's deep dive to end this demo on the most important thing when you talk about privacy, which is the compliance. So you cannot become like a mainstream privacy tool, and by mainstream, I mean integrated in regulated entity without compliance built in. So there's two layers of compliance that we've already built within Zaïffer. The first one is that we have integrated the chain analysis oracle for sanction screening. You know, one of the things that made Tornado Cash blacklisted is not only because they're cutting the link between the sender and the receiver, but it's also because Lazarus Group is able to exploit this type of protocol to their advantage. Lazarus Group is the famous hackers from North Korea. And so by doing so, they're actually polluting the liquidity because they're bringing tokens that are stolen within the pools. And we want to avoid that. So we don't perform KYC, but we perform a sanction screening check in order to avoid getting polluted within the liquidity pools of the platform. Another very important compliance aspect that we have built in, I'm going to change my wallet now. So let's say you want to off-ramp tokens using an exchange. You know, when you send tokens to an exchange, the exchange perform proper AML with chain analysis or score chain softwares. But in order to perform AML with that, they actually have to encipher those amounts. So big question, how can they encipher those amounts even though they're not their tokens? And that's what we call the selective disclosure features. So let's say I'm connecting now with a new wallet, which is the wallet of the exchange. You're going to see the previous wallet was 0x4f something, and now we are on 0x1e something. And you can see here that you have a new section. And in this new section, you can see different transfer that happened. And so let's say, remember my wallet was this one. Let's say I want to off-ramp confidential tokens from the exchange. Then through these selective disclosure features, I can delegate to a third party, here the exchange, the ability to decrypt, reveal, encipher, whatever the semantic, my transaction history for a specific amount of time in order for him to be able to perform his AML obligations. So you can see here that none of this address is this address. So if there is no selective disclosure, I'm not able to decipher this amount. But thanks to this selective disclosure, I can empower it. What's happening here? Where's my MetaMask pop-up? Ah, yeah, it's here. Boom. So now I have validated the transaction, and in less than 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, yeah, 5 seconds, I can decipher the transaction amount. Oh, no, sorry. Sorry, guys, I didn't switch. So let's do it back. You can see that none of those addresses are this address. So this address is not supposed to be able to reveal those transaction amounts. But thanks to the selective disclosure, as I was saying, he can. So let's do it here, for example. Boom, my pop-up just came up, confirming the transaction. And let's say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Boom. He can then decipher the specific transaction history. And so I can do it again and again and again and again. And obviously, you can also batch decrypt, meaning that you can select a bunch of multiple transactions and reveal them at once. And thanks to that feature, then now selectively, you can delegate to a third party the ability to decipher your transaction history for a specific token without revealing to the whole world what's your transaction history, what's your balance, etc. And we believe that combining the sanction screening with the selective disclosure allows the platform to really fit the compliance expectations of the regulators or regulated entity. And so remember, we said in the beginning that the whole challenge with privacy is to find the right balance between the user experience, the privacy, and the compliance. And that's exactly what we're doing. For the user experience, we're not creating an L2, we're not taking users in another chain. I mean, actually, you know, when you create an L2, tokens get locked into a bridge. Those bridges are often centralized, so there is a huge counterparty risk. So I definitely advise to avoid privacy solution with an L2. Pretty much the same if you bridge to, for example, Monero or something like that. So also user experience is amazing because you don't need a new wallet address, you don't need a new wallet interface. You can natively, practically use any wallet in an interoperable way, just like you're using your current wallet with any apps. So the UX is solved. The compliance, again, the sanction screening to avoid having malicious people pollute the liquidity, as well as the selective disclosure, allows you to really fit the expectations of regulators and regulated entities. And privacy, it's really, and regarding privacy, it's really interesting to use fully homomorphic encryption because the computation is extremely fast, obviously 30, 40 seconds here, but it's already infinitely faster than any ZK proof. And that's how you really bring the right user flow, the right seamless interaction that you can have with any dApps. So that's pretty much my demo. I'm happy to answer a couple of questions.
Thank you, Bilal. That was great. We have so many questions. You have already answered some of them. Okay. But on a fundamental level, a question that comes a lot is, what happens if you send a confidential token to someone not using Zaïffer?
I mean, there's no issue because, again, Zaïffer, the dApp, is interoperable with any wallet. So the person will receive the token. Obviously, there are confidentials, and MetaMask doesn't have like a reveal call to actions like we have on our dApp.
But I would like to add something on this. That's why we build a confidential token association with Zama in order to have this new standard getting adopted everywhere. So at some point, eventually, the wallets will have this feature natively.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the question is interesting. But since we're not requiring someone to have a new wallet address or something like that, first, there is no way he can lose those tokens. I think that's the most important point first. And then very soon, like Jason was saying, there will be more and more people that will be adopting the standard, and that will allow them to interact with confidential tokens straight from their interface. But today there is no confidential tokens. So the only place where you can create confidential tokens from non-confidential tokens is on Zaïffer. So if you're looking for that, that's definitely the place to go. And we're already working with various custodians and wallets for an integration. And so soon in your most favorite wallets, you will be able to make any token confidential directly from there, as well as interacting with them. But again, when you want to lend money, you have to go on Aave. When you want to swap money, you have to go on Uniswap. So we don't think this is a huge limitation from a user experience perspective.
Another question, I think this one is for me. Any chain tokens can be privated or just chain which are added by Zama? So this is a question of where is the Zama protocol available? So right now only on Sepolia, later this year on Ethereum mainnet. And obviously our goal is to go to all the other EVMs and even Solana, hopefully next year. So we don't have a clear roadmap to show on this, but our goal and objective is to go to as many chains as possible. But we want to do it properly first on Ethereum mainnet. Another questions we have, so is it possible, I think you already answered it partially, but is it possible that this technology will be blocked and all addresses interacting with contract will be blacklisted? So I think you mostly answer it, but
I can repeat. I mean, it's a big question.
Yeah, this is a
very recurrent question. So Tornado Cash is blacklisted for two reasons. The first reason is that it's cutting the link between the sender and the receiver, and so it doesn't allow people to perform, regulated entities to perform AML once the tokens went through Tornado Cash. So that's the first element of blacklist. And then the second. And so we do the opposite, like I was saying. We don't cut the link between the sender and the receiver, as I was showing on Ethoscan, but we hide the amounts directly on the token natively. We're not going through a proxy contract to hide those. That's why all the transactions appears on Ethoscan and shows the amount that is ciphered. The second reason why people are blacklisting people that are in regulated entities or fintechs are blacklisting people using Tornado Cash is because there is no barriers to entry to block any malicious people. And so a lot of hackers like Lazarus have been exploiting actually Tornado Cash to what's the word in English when you look blanchir?
Like questions
to clean their stolen tokens.
Wash money.
Yeah, to wash money, exactly. And so implementing the sanction screening barriers when people connect, when people want to transact with confidential tokens, block those people from even polluting the software. So by answering those 2 points, we believe there is no reason that regulated entities or regulators block the platform. And as a matter of fact, we have really well advanced with several regulated entities and a couple of regulators that are basically understanding what we're doing and says that what we're saying makes sense.
So there is another similar question by Hugo. If I'm correct, in the UK, there is a new law. Crypto firms operating in the United Kingdom will be required to report detailed customer transaction data starting January 2026. I think, so you're right, Hugo, but using this technology and this protocol as Zaïffer, as an app developer, you can give a viewing key to your regulator. This is a core point. So as an app developer, you're not able to see what your users are doing, but you can give this power to the regulator. So we are exactly reproducing what's already happening in the traditional financial world. We are just bringing this new property on chain while keeping all the benefits of the blockchain.
I'll also add one thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but when you mean crypto firm, I think you mean regulated crypto firm. So the underlying questions to us is like, do we need to be regulated? Are we a regulated entity? And there's 3 things that regulators regulate. The custody. And as you've seen on our platform, people can connect with their wallet. We're not managing private keys in any ways. So we're not a custodian. The second is brokerage. you're not buying tokens on our platform. You're depositing a token, getting another token, and actually you're not buying tokens with fiat currency. So we're not a broker as well. And we're not an asset management company. That's the third act of regulation. An asset management company means you take money and you manage it on behalf of your clients. And we're not doing that for two reasons. Because our vaults that we propose, they're not the vaults that we're managing. It's like copy trader vaults. That's going through from the yield feature. But another very important thing that I wanted to emphasize is that a lot of people ask me, what do you do of the reserve? Okay, I've deposited USDC, you mint me, I get minted a synthetic confidential USDC. Are you investing the reserve? And we are not investing the reserve. Our business model is not based on investing the reserve like a stablecoin would do or some DeFi protocol do. We don't want to do that because we want to clearly separate, being an infrastructure provider and being an asset manager. Some DeFi protocol try to do both, but it's like two different work. And we choose to be like the decentralized tech provider. We're not doing asset management. Another reason why we're not doing that is that we don't want to have any DPEG risk between the number of confidential tokens in circulation and the number of non-confidential tokens that are supposed to be in the vaults. Because when you invest in another protocol, you expose yourself to new risk. The smart contract risk from the other protocol, the hack risk from the other protocol. And so if this protocol gets hacked, it's our users that gets hacked by proxy. And we don't want to have any chance of this happening.
All right, we have some other questions. So maybe we'll take two more. So are you saying that you can specifically give access to any authority to monitor all the transaction details if needed, but it's hidden only from the normal user? So yes, I think it's the answer to this question is yes, just for crypto. This is possible. But you cannot give a viewing key to another account. So you can say this account can view my account, but you don't have authority over other accounts.
Exactly.
Obviously.
You can only have authority over your account. So you selectively choose to whom you can delegate these viewpoints. And again, it's for a selected amount of time. So it's not because you do it once. It's not like an admin where for life he can see everything. It's for a specific amount of time. And obviously he can only see your past transactions from the moment you give him. So if you do new transactions, you would have to re-give him the ability to view those new transactions in the near future.
And this one is for you. The last question is for you, Bilal. How can the backend and white label integration of Zaïffer with the custodian be implemented? Is this something currently on your roadmap?
Yeah. So I was mentioning several integrations with custodians, wallets, fintechs, companies. So we are currently finishing the first integration with an on-off ramp, actually, so that people can buy confidential tokens with their credit card, basically. And we are using that as the test subject, basically, in order to build the proper SDK that people can use. And so an SDK is a set of API that we expose that people can build in. And obviously, depending on what type of partners that we are integrating, we would also be able to provide some front end in order for them to integrate the features easily. But yes, totally. I mean, it's the how do you say? It's the central point. The more you are integrated, the more sticky your protocol becomes, and obviously, it's a high priority for us.
Thank you, Bilal. It was a great demo. If you have any questions, you can reach him on Telegram, I guess. We'll share his Telegram and X account. If you have questions for us, Zama, you can directly reach me on X or just submit a form on our website. I really enjoyed having this first demo. There are many other to come where we'll discover other amazing protocol like Zaïffer using privacy as a core feature. So thank you, everybody, and see you in a few weeks. Bye.
Yeah, super moment. Thanks for the invite, Jason. Bye bye.
You're
everyone.
welcome. Bye.